Nolan never expected the moment that would change his life to begin with a scream at 37,000 feet. One second, he was just another exhausted single father on a midnight flight praying his 8-month-old daughter would stop crying. The next, every passenger was staring at him as if he were the problem, not the terrified baby clinging to his shirt. His hands shook, his chest tightened, and for a split second, he wondered if he was truly failing at the one thing he had left. Then a stranger stood up, walked across the aisle, and reached out her arms. What happened next would rewrite everything he thought he knew about loss, love, and the way fate sometimes appears when we're too desperate to believe in it. At 37,000 feet above the ground, with a world outside nothing but black sky and scattered stars, Nolan Hayes realized he was one bad minute away from completely falling apart. His 8-month-old daughter, Mia, was screaming like the plane was on fire, not fussing, not whining. This was the kind of raw, throat-ripping cry that made people rip off their headphones, twist in their seats, and glare over the headrests as if sheer anger could turn down the volume. The red-eye from Boston to San Diego had been quiet 30 minutes ago. Now row 15 felt like a courtroom, and Nolan was on trial. Mia arched her back in his arms, tiny fists punching at the air. Her face was tomato red, cheeks slick with tears. Her little socks had kicked off somewhere under the seat. Her cry cut through engine noise, through thin airplane walls, through the flimsy armor of Nolan's self-control. He bounced, he rocked, he whispered her name against her damp hair. Nothing worked. "Sir, maybe try walking her a bit," someone suggested from behind him, the fake helpful tone just barely covering the irritation. "Some people shouldn't travel with babies," a man in a navy business suit muttered to no one and everyone. The woman in the seat ahead of him exhaled sharply, the sigh heavy and theatrical, as if she were on stage performing her suffering. Nolan could feel their eyes like heat on his skin. His t-shirt clung to his back with sweat. His heart hammered so hard he thought the whole plane must hear it. He had planned this so carefully. The overnight flight so Mia would sleep, the feeding schedule, the bottles prepped and labeled, the diaper bag packed like a military operation. He had downloaded white noise apps, read articles about flying with infants, even asked for advice in his single dad support group. Preparation was the only thing that kept him from feeling like a fraud. But Mia didn't care about his preparation. She had started fussing somewhere over Indiana. By the time the captain mentioned they were crossing Kansas, she was in full meltdown. He'd tried the bottle. She pushed it away with infuriating baby strength. He'd offered the pacifier. She spit it out with an angry little cough. He rocked her, hummed off-key lullabies from his own childhood, pressed her against his chest so she could hear his heartbeat. She only cried louder, more desperate, like she was trying to tell him something in a language he would never understand. Shame pressed down on him like a physical weight. He could see what they were thinking. They always thought the same thing when they saw him alone with a baby. Poor kid. No mom. Single dad doing it wrong. A baby needs her mother, a man is a backup plan at best, a clumsy substitute at worst. They weren't entirely wrong. 8 months ago, Nolan hadn't known how to change a diaper. 8 months ago, he couldn't tell the difference between a hungry cry and a tired cry. 8 months ago, Hannah had still been alive. She was supposed to be here, doing all the things that seemed to come so naturally to mothers in the movies. Instead, she'd held Mia once. 37 seconds. Long enough for one shaky kiss to a tiny forehead. Long enough to whisper Nolan's name. Then there had been blood. Nurses moving faster than he'd ever seen anyone move. A doctor's face shifting from calm to tight. Professional panic. A sentence that ended his old life in 6 words. "We did everything we could, sir." Now here he was, alone on a plane in the middle of the night with a screaming baby and nearly an entire cabin silently wishing he would disappear. A flight attendant started down the aisle with a tight, practiced smile. Nolan knew that smile. He'd seen variations of it in grocery stores, at the pediatrician's office, in line at the pharmacy. Polite concern with irritation hiding just underneath. "Sir," she began, leaning in with a soothing voice that made him feel worse. "Maybe we can have you stand in the galley for a bit, just to give the other passengers a chance to rest." Translation: take the noise somewhere we can't see it. Nolan swallowed, his throat burning. "I'm trying," he said, though he wasn't sure whether he was talking to her, to Mia, or to the memory of Hannah. "I'm really trying." He closed his eyes for half a second, just long enough to whisper into Mia's ear, "I'm sorry, sweetheart. Daddy's trying, okay? I'm trying." When he opened them, she was there. He hadn't noticed her before. The woman across the aisle by the window. Dark hair in a messy ponytail. Faded sweatshirt. A little girl curled against her side, deeply asleep, clutching a stuffed rabbit. She looked like any exhausted mom on a red-eye, the kind of person whose presence usually blurred into background. But now she was standing. She stepped into the narrow aisle and without asking permission, held out her arms. "Give her to me," she went. "Give her to me," she said. It wasn't harsh, it wasn't bossy, it was quiet, steady, like she was telling him something inevitable, like gravity or sunrise. Nolan stared at her, stunned. I can't just hand her to a stranger." "Sir," the flight attendant began, sounding relieved that someone else was taking charge. "Maybe we—" "Just for a minute," the woman said, eyes never leaving Nolan's. "You look like you're about to pass out." Her voice was different from everyone else's. No judgment, no pity, just a kind of calm that wrapped around her words. Nolan's arms trembled from the effort of holding a thrashing baby. His head throbbed. Mia screamed so loudly his vision felt grainy at the edges. For one terrifying second, he thought he might actually drop her. He loosened his grip just a fraction. That was all it took. The woman stepped closer and, with surprising gentleness, slid Mia out of his arms. The cabin fell utterly silent. Even the business suit guy stopped muttering. People actually leaned into the aisle, eyes widening, as this stranger cradled Nolan's screaming daughter against her chest. She closed her eyes and began to hum. It wasn't some cutesy nursery rhyme. The sound was low and steady, a tune that felt old, like something passed down through generations. Her body swayed slowly, barely moving with the rhythm of the plane, like she and the aircraft had agreed on a shared heartbeat. Mia's cries hitched. She gave one last, broken sob, then stopped. Just stopped. The sudden quiet roared louder than the crying had. Mia pressed her face into the woman's neck, grabbed onto a strand of dark hair, and went completely limp, her tiny body finally surrendering to sleep. Nolan's mouth went dry. The flight attendant blinked twice, then backed away like she'd just interrupted a sacred ritual. Passengers sank back into their seats, some shaking their heads in disbelief, others pretending they hadn't been staring. The woman eased herself into the empty aisle seat beside Nolan, Mia still sleeping against her. He realized he was shaking. "How did you do that?" he whispered. "I'm Lauren," she said quietly, eyes still on the now peaceful baby. "And before you ask, I'm not some magical baby whisperer. I just remember what it feels like." What feels like?" Nolan asked. She looked out the window. The sky was still dark, but a faint silver line had appeared on the horizon, hinting at dawn somewhere over Kansas. "Being so tired you can't see straight," she said, "feeling like everyone is watching you fail, wondering if you're ever going to figure out how to be a parent." Her voice softened, like she was talking more to herself than to him. "I spent the first year of my daughter's life convinced I was the worst mother in America," she added, a bitter little smile tugging at her mouth. "Turned out I was just the only one actually trying." Nolan glanced across the aisle at the sleeping little girl, curly dark hair, round, soft cheeks, that impossible peace children sometimes had in sleep, like the world could not touch them. "Is that her?" he asked. "Your daughter?" "Yeah," Lauren said. "That's Chloe." And she hesitated, then added, "Her dad left when she was 6 months old. Said he wasn't ready to be a father. Kind of late to discover that, if you ask me." "I'm sorry," Nolan said. The words felt inadequate and huge at the same time. Lauren shrugged, but her jaw tightened. "My mom moved in, took care of Chloe while I worked, held me together when I felt like I was made of glass. She was the reason we stayed afloat." Nolan heard it before she said it, the crack in her voice, the past tense. "She died last week," Lauren whispered. "Heart attack. No warning. One minute she was complaining about the price of milk. The next, she swallowed. We're flying home from the funeral." Nolan felt the air change, not just around them, inside him. "I know what that feels like," he said. "My wife, Hannah, she died the day Mia was born." Lauren turned then, really turned, and looked at him. In her eyes, he saw something he hadn't seen in anyone's gaze in months. Recognition, not the neat, surface-level empathy people throw at him like confetti. Something deeper, messier, real. "So we're both doing this by ourselves," she said. "Yeah," Nolan answered. "We are." They sat like that for a while as the sky outside shifted from black to deep blue. The cabin's hum wrapped around them. Mia slept, her tiny chest rising and falling against Lauren's collarbone. Across the aisle, Chloe mumbled something about butterflies and clutched her rabbit closer. "She was watching you, you know," Lauren said suddenly. "Who?" Nolan asked. "Mia. Even when she was screaming. She kept looking at you like she was checking to make sure you were still there." Lauren shifted the sleeping baby slightly, and Mia sighed in her sleep. She's not crying because you're doing something wrong. She's crying because she knows how hard you're trying. Babies can feel stuff like that. Fear, love, all of it. Nolan felt heat prickle behind his eyes. He turned his head quickly, pretending to study the wingtip outside the window. Hannah said something to me at the end, he murmured, more to the window than to Lauren. She told me to find someone who loves Mia the way I loved her. I thought she meant find a new mom. Find someone to fill the space she left. He forced a breath. Lately, I don't know what she meant, or whether I'm enough for this kid. Before Lauren could answer, the pilot's voice crackled over the intercom, announcing their descent into San Diego. Lights flicked on, seat backs clicked upright, people stretched, put away headphones, grabbed bags from under seats like the last hour hadn't happened. Across the aisle, Chloe snapped awake with the speed only kids have. "Mommy?" she croaked, voice thick with sleep. Then she saw Mia. "Mommy, there's a baby." Lauren smiled, the first real unguarded smile Nolan had seen from her. "I know, honey. This is Mia, and this is her dad, Nolan." Chloe studied him with an intensity that made Nolan feel like she could see straight through him. "Why is he sad?" she asked. "He's not sad, baby," Lauren said gently. "He's just tired, like us." Chloe thought this over, then nodded. "My grandma went to heaven," she informed Nolan solemnly. "Mommy says she's watching us from the clouds. Do you think she can see the plane?" Nolan's voice caught. "Yeah," he said. "I think she can see everything. I think she's probably really proud of you and your mom." Chloe's face lit up, satisfied. The plane touched down with a soft bump. People lunged for the aisle before the seatbelt sign was even off. Overhead bins creaked open. Voices rose and overlapped. Nolan reached for Mia. For a second, Lauren held on, her fingers lingering on the baby's back, then carefully transferred her into his arms. Their hands brushed, and something quick and electric passed between them. "Thank you," Nolan said. It sounded small for what she had done, but it was all he had. "You didn't have to." "I know," Lauren said. She was already shoving Chloe's rabbit into a backpack with the practiced ease of a mom who had done this 1,000 times. "I wanted to. Sometimes that's enough." Chloe tugged his sleeve. "Are you coming to our house?" she asked brightly. "I have toys. I can show the baby my toys." Nolan almost laughed at the sheer innocence of it. He looked at Lauren, expecting her to gently shut it down. Instead, she froze for a second, hand resting on the back of the seat in front of her. When she spoke, her voice was quiet and raw. "I'm not ready," she said, meeting his eyes. "For whatever this is, whatever it could be. I just buried my mother. I'm barely holding it together. I don't know if I can handle anything more." "I understand," Nolan said quickly, his heart pounded. "I wasn't expecting." "I work at Harbor Light Cafe," she said, cutting him off, but not unkindly. "On Cedar Avenue. Chloe and I are there most mornings." She dug in her bag, pulled out a crumpled receipt, and scribbled on the back with a pen that barely worked. She handed it to him like it was something dangerous. "No pressure, no expectations," she said. "Just if you ever want to." He looked down at the shaky handwriting. Harbor Light Cafe, 1 to 12 Cedar Avenue, then back at her. "I'll remember," he said. "Mommy makes the best hot chocolate in the world," Chloe added proudly, "with extra marshmallows." The line began to move. People shuffled forward. Lauren hoisted Chloe onto her hip, smiled at Nolan one last time, and let herself be carried away by the slow-moving river of passengers. In seconds, they were gone. Nolan stood in the aisle, Mia warm and solid in his arms, the receipt burning like a brand in his pocket. Around him, people grumbled and shuffled and checked their phones, already leaving this strange little moment behind. But for him, nothing about his life felt the same. If you were in Nolan's place on that midnight flight, would you have trusted a stranger enough to hand over your crying baby, yes or no? Nolan didn't go to Harbor Light Cafe the next day, or the day after that, or the day after that. He told himself it was because of work, because of Mia's schedule, because he didn't want to seem desperate or strange, or like the guy who clung to a moment at 37,000 feet and built fantasies out of it. But the truth was simpler and far more humiliating. He was terrified, and terrified that Lauren wouldn't remember him. Terrified that she would remember him. Terrified that she would look at him and see a man still learning how to breathe without his wife. Terrified that the powerful connection he had felt on that plane was only in his head, only adrenaline and exhaustion and grief stacked on grief. Terrified that he had imagined all of it. So he drove to the cafe more times than he could count, parked across the street, watched through the window as life unfolded on the other side of the glass. Customers lined up for lattes and muffins, couples shared pastries, college kids hovered over laptops. Sometimes he caught a glimpse of Lauren behind the counter, hair tied back, apron dusted with flour, moving with the kind of weary grace he recognized in himself. Sometimes he saw her laugh with someone across the register, a light sound he could almost hear through the glass even though he knew he couldn't. He never got out of the car. Mia shifted in her car seat on those mornings, babbling with the bright, impatient energy of a child who saw no reason to sit still. She kicked her heels, dropped toys, reached up for him with tiny hands. Nolan always told himself he would wait until she napped before he went inside. By the time she napped, he had already driven home. 8 months passed. Time shifted around him in currents. Some days lasted forever, stretched thin by sleepless nights, teething, and the constant worry that he was failing at something fundamental. Other days slipped by too fast. Mia learned to crawl, then stand, then wobble from the coffee table to his arms. She said dada and mo and uh-oh, each new word punching through his chest with a mix of pride and sorrow. But the loneliness thickened. It lived in the quiet moments after Mia fell asleep, in the way the apartment creaked at night, in the sudden ache he felt whenever he saw a mom kneeling to help her toddler with shoes or brushing hair behind a small ear. He kept the cafe receipt in his wallet, folded and unfolded so many times that the ink started to fade. Harbor Light Cafe, Cedar Avenue. He thumbed the edge of the paper until it softened, until it nearly tore. Sometimes he wondered if the address was the only thing holding him together. On the morning of Mia's first birthday, Nolan woke with a jolt, as if someone had spoken his name aloud. It was early, barely light outside. Mia was awake in her crib, babbling in soft bursts, her voice drifting from the baby monitor on the nightstand. He listened for a moment, then sat up slowly. Something in him had shifted. Not confidence, not certainty. Something quieter, a kind of fragile courage that felt like it could break if he breathed too hard. He got out of bed, lifted Mia from her crib, kissed the top of her head, and whispered, "Happy birthday, pretty girl." She grinned up at him with Hannah's eyes. In that moment, he knew he couldn't keep avoiding what his heart had already decided. By 8 a.m., he had dressed Mia in a yellow dress covered in tiny sunflowers, a gift from Hannah's mother, mailed with a note written in shaky cursive that read, "She deserves something beautiful." He packed Mia's small bag, strapped her into the car seat, and drove towards Cedar Avenue. He didn't let himself hesitate this time. Harbor Light Cafe appeared like it had been waiting for him. Navy awning, window boxes filled with rosemary and marigolds, a chalkboard sign out front advertising caramel pecan muffins. The kind of place people found comfort in without even knowing why. Through the window he saw mismatched chairs, warm light, framed photos of the harbor on the walls. And behind the counter he saw her. Lauren, her hair longer now, braided loosely over her shoulder. She wore a pale blue apron dusted with flour and was laughing at something an older man at the register had said. For an instant, Nolan couldn't breathe. Mia stirred on his shoulder. "What do you think, birthday girl?" he whispered. "Should we do this?" Mia blinked at him with profound seriousness, then said, "Mo." Nolan let out a shaky breath. "Yeah," he whispered, "more." He pushed open the door. The bell chimed softly. Warm air smelling of coffee and baked bread washed over him. The morning crowd barely glanced up, too occupied with their conversations and pastries. Except one. In the far corner, a small girl with curly dark hair was bent over a coloring book, tongue poking from the corner of her mouth as she concentrated. A stuffed rabbit leaned against the chair beside her. "Chloe." She lifted her eyes. They widened instantly. "Mommy!" she shrieked at full volume. "Mommy, it's the airplane man and baby Mia!" Lauren froze mid-laugh. The coffee pot in her hand slipped a fraction before she caught it. She turned slowly. Her gaze swept the cafe, searching, frantic for half a second, until it landed on him. On Nolan. On Mia. For a single suspended moment, everything in the cafe held still. The customers, the sound of milk steaming, the hum of low conversation. All of it stilled around the intensity of Lauren's expression. Surprise, recognition, fear, hope. Mia shifted in Nolan's arms, squirmed, and reached toward Lauren with one chubby hand. Then clear as a bell, she said a new word. "Ma." Lauren pressed a hand to her mouth. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Oh my God." Nolan's face went hot, mortified. No, Mia, sweetheart, that's not..." She doesn't understand." But Lauren was already wiping her eyes. She put down the coffee pot, nearly stumbling as she walked from behind the counter. Chloe abandoned her crayons and sprinted across the cafe, Rabbit dragging behind her. Lauren stopped a few feet away. "You came," she said, her voice trembling. "I almost didn't," Nolan admitted. I almost turned the car around 100 times. Then why didn't you? Nolan swallowed. He looked at Mia, who still reached for Lauren like she recognized something Nolan couldn't give her. Because she never forgot you, he said. Every night before she falls asleep, she hums. This little sound took me weeks to figure out where it came from. He breathed out. It's the song you sang to her, on the plane. Lauren's breath caught. That was my mom's lullaby, she whispered. Margaret used to sing it to me every night. I didn't realize I just started humming it without thinking. She remembered, too, Nolan said, and so did I. Chloe threw her arms around Nolan's leg with zero hesitation. Can Mia come play with my crayons? I saved a purple one for her. Lauren laughed through her tears. Nolan set Mia down. She stood on her wobbly toddler legs, steadying herself with one hand. Chloe extended her hand like she had rehearsed it. Hi, Mia. I'm Chloe. We're best friends now. Mia grabbed Chloe's hand. The two toddled toward the coloring table, Chloe narrating everything with the seriousness of a child who believed crayons were a sacred responsibility. Nolan and Lauren watched them go. It's been a long 8-month there, Nolan said quietly. He wasn't sure if he was smiling or crying, maybe both. Lauren nodded. You look stronger, tired, but stronger. You look like you've survived something, he replied. I have, she said, and so have you. They weren't touching, not even close, but the air between them felt charged, humming like the ground before a storm. Part of Nolan wanted to reach out. Part of him wanted to run. Lauren seemed to feel the same. I don't know what this is, she said softly, or what it could be. I'm still figuring out how to breathe without my mom. And you? I'm still figuring out how to breathe without Hannah, Nolan finished. Lauren nodded. Maybe we don't have to figure it out alone. Nolan looked at her, really looked. And for the first time in a long time, the fear didn't drown out everything else. He whispered, I'm glad I finally came in. She whispered back, me too. As Mia giggled in the corner and Chloe explained the difference between purple and violet crayons, Nolan wondered if the universe sometimes knew what it was doing after all. If you were Lauren, seeing Nolan walk through that cafe door after 8 months, would your heart have reacted the same way? Yes or no? Nolan didn't expect anything to happen quickly. Life as a single parent had taught him that progress never came in dramatic leaps. Grief certainly didn't. Healing came in small, uneven steps, the kind you barely noticed until months later, when you turned around and realized you weren't standing in the same pain anymore. So when he walked into Harbor Light Cafe that morning, holding Mia's hand while Chloe tugged at her other sleeve, he didn't imagine the world changing. He just thought he was taking one cautious step towards something new. But sometimes the smallest steps turn out to be the ones that shift everything. Over the weeks that followed, Nolan returned to the cafe again and again. At first, it was just a quiet hello, a coffee to go, a conversation that began and ended with polite smiles. Lauren kept her distance, not out of coldness, but out of a caution he understood all too well. She had been damaged by loss. So had he. Two people carrying invisible fractures rarely collided without fear. But the universe has its own pace, and it didn't seem interested in keeping them apart. Mia and Chloe became inseparable. If Nolan tried to order a coffee without letting Mia run to Chloe's little corner, she would tug on his pant leg with frustrated determination. Chloe insisted on saving a purple crayon for her every single morning. They learned to share muffins, though half of each muffin ended up on the floor. The sound of their giggles filled the cafe in a way that made even the grumpiest customers soften. Lauren and Nolan fell into a rhythm too. At first, they only talked about the kids, then about groceries, daycare, the terrible price of diapers, then about their parents, their childhoods, the things they didn't know how to fix yet. Each conversation chipped away at the wall between them. Some days Lauren cried, some days Nolan did. Neither apologized. One Tuesday morning, about a month after he first walked back into the cafe, Nolan found Lauren sitting alone at the table near the window. The chair opposite her sat empty, the same chair she had once told him her mother used to sit in every morning. She wasn't crying, but her eyes were red, her coffee untouched. Rough day? Nolan asked gently. Lauren nodded. I'm fine, just missing her. Nolan didn't ask who. He knew. He simply pulled out the empty chair and sat beside her instead of across from her. She leaned into him without hesitation, her head resting on his shoulder, a soft sigh escaping her. She whispered, "Thank you for coming back that day." He whispered, "Thank you for telling me where to find you." The next small step came 2 days later, when Chloe insisted on showing Nolan a drawing she'd made. He knelt beside her, expecting another scribbled butterfly. Instead, Chloe pointed proudly at 3 stick-figure adults and 2 scribbled children standing beside a messy blue house with a crooked chimney. "This is us," she declared. Nolan blinked. "All of us?" "Yeah," Chloe said. "Mom says you're brave. I think that means you get to be in the picture." Lauren froze mid-cleaning nearby, her breath catching, her eyes flicking up to meet Nolan's. She looked terrified, then hopeful, then terrified again. Nolan smiled at Chloe. "It's beautiful," he said, but his voice shook slightly. That night, he lay awake long after Mia fell asleep, staring at the glow of the baby monitor. For months, the memory of Hannah's last words had haunted him. "Find someone who loves her the way you love me." He had assumed she'd meant a partner, a replacement, someone to fill the hole she left behind. But now he wondered if she had meant something else entirely. He wondered if she had meant love in any form, family in any form, healing in any form. He wondered if she had meant someone who wouldn't let him carry all of this alone. The biggest shift came one rainy afternoon in late spring. The cafe was quiet, customers tucked inside, escaping the drizzle. Mia and Chloe were sitting on the floor drawing tornadoes and butterflies on the same page, both narrating their artwork with chaotic enthusiasm. Mia kept shouting, "Blue, blue," every time Chloe scribbled purple, and Chloe kept correcting her with exasperated authority. Nolan was wiping crumbs off the table when someone tapped his shoulder. Lauren. She looked nervous in a way he hadn't seen before, hands fidgeting, breathing shallow, like she had stepped off some emotional cliff and wasn't sure how far down the fall would go. "Can we talk?" she asked. They stepped into the back hallway near the storage room, out of view from customers and crayons and tiny voices. Lauren took a deep breath. "I kept telling myself I wasn't ready, that it was too soon, too complicated, too painful. And maybe it is all of that, but there's something else too." Nolan's heart pounded. "What's that?" Lauren swallowed hard. "I feel safe with you." He blinked. It was such a simple statement, and yet coming from someone who had raised her daughter alone, buried her mother just weeks earlier, and somehow held herself together through storms no one else saw, it meant everything. She reached out, took Nolan's hand, her fingers trembling. "I feel like I can breathe around you again." Nolan didn't speak at first. He simply stepped closer, brushing a stray strand of hair from her cheek. She leaned into his touch, eyes closing for a brief moment. He whispered, "I feel the same." Her eyes opened, and in that moment, everything became clear and frightening and astonishing all at once. "We don't have to rush," Nolan said softly. "We don't have to name anything yet. We can take it slow." Lauren nodded, "But we don't have to pretend anymore either." He smiled gently, as if smiling too hard might break both of them. And then, finally, after months of fear and hesitation, they kissed. It wasn't dramatic or rushed or desperate. It was hot, trembling, unsure, and deeply real. The kind of kiss that felt like the beginning of something and the end of something all at once. When they pulled apart, Lauren let out a shaky laugh. "Oh my God, Chloe is going to tell everyone." Nolan laughed too. Mia might tell them in her own way. They walked out hand in hand into the cafe again, and Chloe immediately shouted, "Are you guys done talking? Mia wants the purple crayon." Months passed. The cafe became a second home. Nolan and Lauren grew into something steady, something built on honesty and grief and rebuilding, and two little girls who giggled like the world couldn't touch them. Mr. Allen started saving 2 muffins instead of 1. Customers who had watched their story unfold from afar began calling them the Little Cafe family. Eventually, Nolan and Mia moved into a small house just 5 blocks from the cafe. A house with a green front door. A house with Chloe's drawings taped to the fridge and Mia's toys under the couch, and the comforting smell of coffee and cinnamon that somehow always followed Lauren home. One summer evening, as the sun melted into the horizon, Mia toddled into the living room holding a picture she and Chloe had made together. 4 stick figures, 2 big, 2 small, 1 house. She held it up proudly and said, "Dada, family." Nolan stared at the drawing for a long moment, his throat tightening. Lauren came up beside him, slipping her arm around his waist. Chloe climbed onto the couch next to Mia, rabbit tucked under her arm. Nolan whispered, yeah, baby, family." Somewhere far above, planes crossed the sky, carrying strangers and stories and cries, waiting to be soothed by unexpected kindness. And maybe on one of those flights, someone reached out their arms and said, "Give her to me," and changed a life without even realizing it. Because love does that sometimes. It arrives in the smallest moments. A humming lullaby, a scribbled receipt, a purple crayon, a door you finally walk through, the courage to stay, the courage to begin. If you were watching this story unfold from the outside, would you believe that one single moment on an airplane could change the rest of someone's life? If this story touched your heart, Leave your thoughts in the comments. And if you want to watch more heartwarming and emotional stories, remember to like, subscribe, and click the bell icon for notifications whenever a new video is posted. Which country are you watching from? Don't forget to share this video to spread warmth to even more people.